happy little games, punk. Hello everybody, Batman Returns for the 7th and final installment on the history of Batman Returns. It has been an epic, monumental journey as we have weaved our way through the various games based on the 1992 blockbuster film. I have taken the liberty to condense these two games into one video because they are similar but not exactly the same with quite a few differences. Today, we are checking out the final two games on the list as well as a couple of miscellaneous items I wanted to add at the very end. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed this series just as much as I've enjoyed making it, and I thank you for all your comments and support. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final installment on the history of Batman Returns for the Sega Game Gear and Sega Master System. In 1992, Sega wanted to capitalize on their license of Batman Returns and release it for as many systems as possible. Not only did we have the Sega Genesis and Sega CD versions, but we also had a little Batman on the go with the 1992 release of Batman Returns for the Sega Game Gear. This time, Sega has handed off the reins to Company Aspect, and I think they did a pretty good job. As the story goes, the game picks up halfway through the movie plotline where Batman is accused of pushing the Ice Princess off the roof. You have to catch the crazy Red Circus Triangle Gang as well as the nefarious Catwoman and Dastardly Penguin. When the game starts, and you are given the option of two different routes to take, the second one always being the hardest. At the beginning of each level, except for level 5, you are given the same choice as to which route to take, giving it a slightly higher replay value. According to the manual, Batman has a few moves at his disposal, including a standard punch and crouch maneuver when you are at close range. This is absolutely false because I tried numerous times standing literally close enough to bump uglies with the enemy and Batman continued to throw batarangs and not any knuckle sandwiches. Your primary attacks are 3 different types of batarangs, including a long range attack which takes care of far away enemies, but it's also the weakest, a normal batarang which is the best against slow moving criminals, and for close range the powerful batarang should be your weapon of choice. You also have the ability to jump as well as glide for a short period of time. You have to pause the game to access the option menu to change which type of batarang you're going to use. You also have a Batmobile attack which can be used to take out all the enemies on screen on levels 1 through 3. On levels 4 through 5, the Bat Ski Boat makes an appearance and does the same thing. Your other weapon of choice is your grappling hook, which you will definitely need to get to the upper ledges of the buildings. If Batman is running, you can initiate a power swing using the grappling hook, which will get you across a large distance. The physics on this look really good, and it's a lot of fun just to swing around pretending to be Spider-Man. You can also use the grappling hook on certain enemies. Throughout the levels, you will see various bats just hanging around which can be shot with your batarang to unveil special items such as health power-ups, and also a bat logo which increases your Batmobile or Bat Ski Boat power-up by 1. Thankfully, you have a health bar and 3 lives to use, but once those are gone, it's game over. There are various clown enemies in the game, each with different types of attacks. Apparently, the developers felt there weren't enough different circus freaks in the game, so they ended up making their own, each with a wild and varied attack. The game takes place across 5 levels with a mini-boss at the end of each one. The stages you encounter are Gotham City streets, Shrek's department store. The rooftops of Gotham. The sewers of Gotham. And the Penguin's lair. The mini-bosses you encounter are the tattooed strongman who has added to his repertoire because now he throws fire. Catwoman. Rock Monster, which I must have missed in the Batman Returns movie because I sure didn't see him. The Penguin. And finally, the Penguin in his Duckmobile. You also get to attack the Penguin's campaign RV, but it's really just a few battering attacks and it's destroyed. I guess you could call this a mini boss. After defeating the Penguin, you are treated to a nice animated cutscene and the game is over. The graphics are fairly detailed, especially for such a small screen, but nothing gets lost in the background and it's easy to make everything out. The animation is nice, especially on your grappling hook when you're swinging from ledge to ledge. The action is fast and furious and the controls are nice and tight.
That's what she said! Michael!
Sound effects and music are pretty good and really remind me of the good old 8-bit NES days. For Batman Returns on the Go, it's a fun little game, although a bit too short. It's also a bit on the easy side, especially for experienced gamers, but I always enjoyed playing it, especially back in the day.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
You are all that stands between Gotham City and the forces of destruction in the Batman Returns handheld game from Tiger.
What do you want?
To destroy the Penguin's evil army.
The time has come to punish all!
Defeat the Catwoman. Face the Penguin in 5 levels of skill.
You don't really think you'll win, do you?
The Batman Returns handheld electronic game, now playing in a pocket near you.
And yes, I had to include the Tiger LCD Batman Returns handheld game. While not a traditional video game, I thought I would include it among the various other Batman Returns games. That same year, Batman Returns was also released for the Sega Master System. This is basically the same as the Game Gear version, although nowhere near as polished in certain areas. There is no cutscene with Batman seemingly pushing the Ice Princess, so it drops you into the action straight away. The first thing you notice when you start the game is that the camera angle has been zoomed out quite a bit compared to its little brother, and you can see much more of the action. Instead of a straight up action title, this has more of an emphasis on platforming. Batman no longer has a life bar as it's a one-hit kill type of world, so you best be careful. Thankfully, the enemies can be taken out with one hit as well, except for the bosses. The bat power-ups are back, but they are differentiated by colored bat symbols. There are 3 different power-ups, including the yellow icon, which increases Batman's speed. The orange icon will give Batman an extra life, and the gray icon will increase the Batarang's strength and distance. The more of these you collect, the greater the distance and speed your Batarang will go. You no longer have the option of changing what type of Batarang you throw, and the Batmobile and Bat-Ski Boat power-ups have also been removed. Instead of the more traditional blue as seen in the Game Gear version, Batman is more of a purple color, instantly bringing to mind the first Batman game from Sunsoft on the NES. Both the Master System and Game Gear can display 32 colors at the same time. The Game Gear, though, has an increased palette of 4,096 colors as opposed to the 64 colors on the Master System. I assume this has something to do with Batman's costume change. The backgrounds have also been changed a bit, as well as the graphics for selecting which route you choose to take. The developers' budgets for backgrounds must have ran out for the boss characters because most of them fight on a black screen. Or maybe it just takes place at night. The grappling hook is Batman's other weapon of choice and feels very intuitive, just like the Game Gear version. The action takes place across 5 levels with a mini-boss at the end of each one. I am showing you each of the levels because they are different from the Game Gear version. The 5 levels are Gotham City streets, Shrek's department store, the rooftops of Gotham, the sewers of Gotham, and the Penguin's lair. The mini-bosses include the Penguin's campaign RV, fire-throwing tattooed strongman, Catwoman, the Rock Monster, another battle with Catwoman, the Penguin, and finally Penguin in his Duckmobile. The graphics look nice and are well animated, especially Batman with his flowing cape. Other characters, such as the Penguin, sort of resemble his movie counterpart. The controls still feel nice and tight, just like they should in a platform game where precision jumping is the key. The sound effects and music are only average at best, and they do tend to get a bit tedious at times. It's nowhere near as bad as the mega queefs we've been subjected to in the past. Both games use the same ending cinematics, only with the Master System version reflecting the purplish color of Batman. It is a short game with only 5 levels, but if you do get stuck, there are a few cheats available, including one for infinite lives, one for 50 lives, and a level select. The only other Batman Returns video game that was in development but never saw a release was for the Commodore 64. This was to be based off of the wonderful Amiga version but scaled way down. UK magazine's Commodore Force and Commodore Format featured an extensive diary on the making of the game. According to programmer Roy Bannon, only the first level was ever complete and then it was cancelled due to declining Commodore 64 sales. As you can see from the still shots, it doesn't look too bad with great care being put into the animation, especially on Batman's sprite. Hopefully the game design would have turned out a whole lot better than the Amiga version. All of the articles have been posted on GamesThatWeren't.com, which is an excellent resource for cancelled Commodore 64 titles. As we've come to learn, there are 8 different Batman Returns video games with a 9th one in development. The only reason I covered each individual game was because each one was different. When Batman Forever was released by Acclaim Software 3 years later, it was just the same game ported to different systems, all developed by the same company. Just about every system had a version of Batman Returns except for the Game Boy, which is a bit strange. There were some fantastic Batman games on the list, but we also had some that just weren't very good at all. If you've ever wanted the chance to beat on some stinky circus freaks all the while protecting Gotham City, be sure and give these games a shot. You'll be glad you did. If you enjoyed the history of Batman Returns, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, if you would like to support me on Patreon, please click the link below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be back next time with a brand new video. Same Pat time, same Pat channel.